Welcome back to another Wheel of Time with my baby sister video. Yeah, so this is the conversation that I had with my sister after she finished The Eye of the World. She finished the book, and then she started book two. She had no willpower, which I love. I love how excited she was to just jump into the next story. So yeah, this is just the conversation that we had. We filmed this about a week ago, and I've been sick since then. In fact, actually, most of the editing I had to do with this video was just editing out my coughing because I was coughing a lot. I've been basically a pile of goo for the past week, but I had some energy today, so I finished up editing. And yeah, so this is basically that conversation we discuss, mostly The Eye of the World, and then her thoughts and comparisons between the book and the show, and then, of course, the beginning of The Great Hunt, which is where she's at right now. There is going to be a bit of a gap between this book and when she finishes The Great Hunt. We do have plans to have a conversation at the end of that, but, you know, plans being what they are, we don't know. But yeah, it's going to be a minute before she finishes The Great Hunt because it's her very, very busy season at work. So she's slowed down a bit. But anyway, let's get into this conversation. I don't have to talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike because it's over. So congratulations on that. So let's just get into this conversation.
Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy. Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy.
So you finished The Eye of the World. You started The Great Hunt already because you could not wait. That's how hooked you are on these books.
Well, also, it feels like it's become a part of my routine now. It's like I don't know what to do when I'm taking a shower. I mean, I should shower, but like I want to listen to the books. Like it's become kind of comforting. Like I'm cooking breakfast in the morning. I want to listen to the book. I'm driving into work in the morning. I want to listen to the book. So yeah, that's kind of become a part of my like daily routine. So I kind of like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, that's what I do a lot. Like I'm very much I listen to audiobooks and podcasts a lot while I'm doing whatever I'm doing in my life.
Yeah.
So
I used to do podcasts, but like something about like this book kind of is more comforting. They're like a little bit like, woo, what's gonna happen next? But you're not like in your head. Like you're just going through your day and it's just you like I do get excited to know what's gonna happen next and I'm really into it, but it's not as like thought-provoking and it's not like stimulating me in that type of way. It's not like I have to like come up with opinions and like I either disagree or agree or it's just I'm listening to a pleasant, interesting, exciting book and I just like that.
Yeah, you're listening to different types of podcasts than I am. I am listening to Wheel of Time related podcasts or other I know. I don't know if you know this. Your big sister's a nerd. She's a real nerd.
I've been on this. I didn't know. We used to have debates about the difference between nerds and geeks. And now we know you are definitely a nerd. We have established this from as long as I can remember. But you are a specific Wheel of Time fanatic as well. I did not know that.
I am definitely a Wheel of Time fanatic. I do like other things. Like I also really like Star Trek and Babylon 5, like other nerdy things. But Wheel of Time is definitely it's my main thing. It's my main thing.
And that I did not know about you until I became an adult. Like I knew you would walk around with these big books, but you always had a book. I mean, you've read so many books. Like I didn't know Wheel of Time was your favorite.
You might have like seen multiple iterations of Wheel of Time. I know I got a picture of Christy holding one of the Wheel of Time books, like when she was like 9 or 10.
Yeah, I just remember them being massive. You just always walk around with big books.
They were chonkers. They are chonkers. You know this now. So
yeah.
Well, let's talk about The Eye of the World. You have finished it. Just start. What is your first impressions? Your thoughts about?
I mean, the thing I like the most about the first book, and I don't know if that's just going to continue with all the books, but you get a lot of like backstory, and it just feels like you feel the world being built. You feel, you know, and like. I just really enjoy that. I that's my favorite part. It's like I also find the difference between the show and the Wheel of the book is I don't like the fighting scenes as much in the book. I prefer it in the show.
Oh,
The
okay.
fighting scenes are just like, it's just a lot happening, and they're trying to read it. I don't visualize that as well.
Mm,
Whereas in a
mm.
show, you read it, you see it,
Obviously,
like
yeah,
you,
you're seeing it. You're
yeah.
seeing it. Yeah. Yeah.
But
That is interesting.
I much prefer the backstory, and like, because you don't get much of that in the show. Um,
Mm,
and I like to like fully understand the depth of the friendships, and you feel it more. Like you feel invested more into the
mm,
characters, into their dynamic, into their journey, their
for sure.
emotions. Like it's you can't compare it in a show. You
No,
just
no.
can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of time that you spend in characters' heads. Like, for
Yeah.
example, I said to you, when you're finished Eye of the World, I'll tell you my theory about
Okay.
why they changed Perrin's backstory so much. I
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that because Perrin is like you spent a little bit of time in his head in book one, he will think about something for 4 pages and then
Yeah.
do something for
Yeah.
a page, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so
Yeah.
you spend all that time in his brain. That is incredibly hard to film. Like,
That's a good point.
like he's just gonna be
Yeah.
sitting there thinking for like a minute of film time, like to try and show what he's thinking about, the anxiety that he's having. I will say this, I am not a particularly huge fan of that change to him,
Yeah.
but I think that's the motivation is
Yeah.
Perrin
I'm
is going to be
happy you
really
gave.
quiet. Yeah. I was just going to say,
I'm
Perrin's going to be really quiet and pensive and thoughtful. We need to give the audience an idea of what it is he's thinking about. So we have to give
okay.
them something very clear. Like, you're not, if Perrin looks like he's like distraught and thoughtful, you don't have a guess. Like, you don't have to guess what he's thinking about. The man accidentally killed
Mm.
his wife. That's probably what he's thinking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never realized, and maybe because I haven't done as many like book than show reads or something. Like I have, but not the ones I have. They don't change such fundamental things in it. It might miss some
Mm.
things, switch up some things, but they don't add such fundamental things. Is that normal? Like, is this like then?
Depends on, yeah. I mean, different adaptations do different things. One of the weirdest adaptations I ever saw was a adaptation of a classic book called Moll Flanders. It's a classic book, love it, fantastic book. The movie, literally, it got her name right. And actually, no, it didn't even get her name right because her name wasn't actually even Moll Flanders. That was a alias that she took on. Like, I watched the movie, was like, what is like this is they changed everything, like every possible it's not. But then there are other adaptations that are like beat by beat by beat. We are copying
Yeah,
every
yeah,
single so every
yeah.
adaptation is different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, no, I just thought that was like the whole time I was reading the book, I'm like, when does Perrin talk about killing his wife? Did I miss it? Is it ever going to come back? Am I knowing? Like, did I misread? I was like, did I accidentally skip a chapter? I was like, where is Perrin? And that's the difference when you watch the show and then read the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it in such a weird way. Like, I didn't watch all the shows and then read all the books, or read all the books and then I watched one season, started reading the book.
Yeah.
I watched actually the
Halfway
first
through
two,
season two. Yeah.
halfway through season two, which also confuses me because there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like things in season two, or like things in book one that end up in season.
Yep.
No, things in book. Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
over the place.
Things in book one, like Elias and Elaine, that
Yeah,
don't show up until season
yeah,
two.
yeah. And like I prefer the way we met Elaine and Elias in the
Mm.
books. Much prefer.
Okay.
Because Elaine came across in the beginning a little bit like, I am the queen heir, and I like she had all her servants come to like set up her room in the show, and it's just like, who is this Miss Privilege coming? But she did humble herself really great, and I love Elaine. But it's just the meeting of her. I preferred her in the books.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. That is true. I think the show has done an excellent job with Elaine. Like, I think she is,
Well,
my personal opinion, I think they've done a brilliant job with her. My guess as to why they didn't bring her into season one is she would have been in one episode, and it's very like
mm,
hard. when actors are people and they have jobs, and to say, okay, we're going to hire you for this episode. The next season isn't going to start filming for a year and a half. You can't take another job. You have to
Yeah.
be committed. Like it's one of those things. So like they will often like they'll move characters around to where they can be more present.
Yeah, I prefer also the way we found out about in the books parents both nature.
Yeah.
Like I just loved it. Like it felt I was a little hurt by it in the book when they started to suggest it was the Dark Lord, the
Dark one. Yeah.
the dark one who gave it to him. There was a
Mhm.
certain part where like Lan and Moraine was saying that was a hand in the dark one doing and I
Yeah.
didn't like that. I was like, don't say that to parent. Don't make him feel like this was the dark one who put it on him. Stop that.
Yeah. I had a bit of a revelation on my latest reread on that, because I don't remember what Lan said, but Moraine goes to say, I don't think this is the Dark One, but then she stops halfway through it and she can't say it. And there's a lot of things like that. Like I'm paying way more attention to Moraine now when I read the books, because she's such a big part of the show. Whereas when I first read the books, Moraine was just like, she's not as present. Like, or you're in Rand's perspective. You're not in Moraine's perspective. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm paying more attention to her. And in that moment, I think what happened is she got caught up in her I said I vow, is my opinion. Is like she was about to say, it's not the Dark One, but she doesn't 100% know. So she cannot say it because she doesn't 100%. Like there's still like 5% of her who thinks maybe it is, but she can't. Like she literally physically can't lie. So I don't know. Yeah. The other theory that I had, and this is not just me, there's other people who've said this, is one of the reasons they delayed showing Perrin and what he was, like his wolfiness, is that they really wanted him to be one of the people that you thought might be the dragon. Because season one, the mystery of season one is who's the dragon. And if they showed that he was a wolf, you would go, oh, okay, well, he's a wolf. Like, he's not going to be a dragon. He's a wolf. Yeah. Well, as somebody, like, you've now read the book, and that is a completely different way of telling this story. Do you think that the who is the dragon mystery was good or worth it, or like
in the show?
In the show, because that doesn't exist in the books.
Literally,
you don't know that the dragon is a thing until like the last chapter.
It's so hard for me because I knew that dragon was a thing from the very beginning, and I knew who the dragon was, and I knew like when I was reading the first book. So it's kind of like I already knew that was something eventually going to happen. Like I did have to wait to the very, very end of book one and then book two. But yeah, I kind of already knew Rand was a dragon. I knew this whole thing was about Rand becoming the dragon. I can't wait to get to the books where I haven't seen the show for it. Like I can't wait for that part because I want to see how that feels. But I would say it was worth it for the shows. Even though I kind of suspected from the jump it was Rand, I think it was better for a show to have that suspense. I do think a show needed that. I think the show needed the dragon. I think the show needed that suspense and like guessing and who could it be? What it like? Yeah, of course. I think that's how shows work.
Yeah, it needed a hook of some kind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's just one of those things. As a person who went into it knowing the story, it's hard for me to judge. Like it's hard for me to like. Would that have hooked me? I don't know if that would have hooked me.
Oh, it definitely hooked me. It hooked me. And especially because I had the suspicion it was Rand, and I just wanted to be proven right. Like I was like, "Who is this?" Like I want to know. Yeah. So that one definitely was good. So you were saying about like Moraine. It's so like it is a weird position I'm in. I'm still not like a completely fresh reader because I watched the show first. Because in my mind, Moraine was still a very big part of the books because I know her part in the show as well. She's the one reading it to me. Like I'm listening to her voice.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
But
Addison said the same thing. Like when he was listening to it, he's always thinking about Moraine because it's her voice.
Yeah. But I also did think about with book two, because like there were so many things, and now I think I'm forgetting them. With book, like I would listen to a chapter and be like, "Oh, I need to talk to Jenny about this." Like, but then I just keep carrying on, and then I forget. And then I'm like,
Mm-mm.
God, I wish I remember. So it would probably be better to do it like in chunks because there's so many things that come to my mind, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, how do I feel about this? This is different. This is,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
or like things like just, for instance, I remember when I was listening to the Loyal backstory, I
Mm.
absolutely loved it. Like, I
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely loved it. And I was so angry. We don't know how they're going to maybe show it up in other seasons,
Mm.
but I love the backstory of Loyal. I love
Yeah.
his whole, that whole group of Ogiers. I love, they try to show him patience, but like they don't, I don't think it was portrayed that they lived so long. I don't think it was portrayed that like they were such a big fundamental part of the building. Like, I don't think the waves got a lot of time,
No. Yeah.
and there's so much to the waves.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot.
so that was also something that I just, I kind of wish. But then also, I really do feel the show is just a teaser for the books now that I've read the books. I'm kind of
Well,
like,
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's almost like a trailer for the
Mm.
book.
For the books, for the book. Okay, I can see that. Because I like when you watch season one, like you're saying, the ways specifically, you've brought up the ways a couple of times. In the show was barely even touched on and explained. Whereas in the books, obviously you get a much more full view of what and they are and how horrible they are. When you do you remember watching it, did you feel like you were missing information about
Oh,
it?
hugely. I remember not
Okay.
understanding why Loyal was the only one who knew where it was. I remember not
Right.
understanding how he got tagged along with the ride. I remember
Mm,
not understanding why he was the one that could open, like he knew where it was, and Moraine, who was an Aes Sedai, didn't. I
mm,
remember not really understanding why aren't these just more like, so we've been journeying around the whole world, stressing, almost being killed, and we could have just been going through the ways this whole time. Like, I remember
okay. Okay.
thinking, why wasn't this presented earlier?
Okay.
And maybe I wasn't paying attention completely in the show when I watched it, and that's why I probably should have watched it again. But I just remember thinking the ways were like, just, I was like, that's just, it just made no sense to me. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the like as trying to judge the quality of the show as somebody who's read the books, I go into it with background information, so it's very hard for me to judge
Yeah.
sometimes if it's communicating the information well. Like
Hmm.
I don't know. Like because I when I watch it, I was like, well, people will just think the ways are the ways, and they won't necessarily know that there's more information that they need to know.
Hmm.
But if you actually felt that you were missing something,
Now, I was also going to say, like, they also don't spend enough time explaining the weaving of the web, which I think is like
we talked
beautiful.
about that.
Like, I
Yeah.
just love that. Like, I love the whole Taviran, you know, perspective. I just love that part of the story and how they
Mm.
describe your fate and the weaving and how it could switch and change. And I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
how you would present it in a show, but I do like to read about that. And everything in the book
yeah,
is like, it's the will of the it's the will of the pattern. You have to follow the
yeah.
pattern. I remember in the show Maureen saying random little things about the pattern, but I didn't really understand what she meant. Like, I really didn't
Mhm.
fully get it. And I think there's just so much happening, and like you would have to rewatch the shows many times, I
Mm.
think, to even catch every little thing that happens if you haven't read the books.
Yeah, like there are, small things where they sort of explained about the ways, or there is a moment where somebody slightly explains about Taviran in the show. But I mean, even in the books, taking understanding Taviran, for
Yeah.
example, for me at least, it took a while. That wasn't something
Yeah.
that I was just like, oh, that makes sense. Like it was
Well,
just
yeah,
what?
you had to explain it to me, to be fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not sure because that is a balance that I think the show definitely has to strike, right? Like in the books, you can have, for example, you read book one. There's a part in book one where Moraine tells a story about Manetheren for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's a really really cool passage. It's beautiful. It's amazing. You can't really have her tell a story for 5 minutes in the
I
show because
know.
that's going to
I know.
feel really really slow.
Yeah.
So I think the show has to. I mean, with that, what they did is they had a cool song about Manetheren, and they were able to get that information in there. I feel like the show often has to figure out, okay, do we spend a lot of time explaining things, or can we just
Make it a
like say
good
that it's
show.
here and yeah, like and move on, like and
Yeah.
because I
I
don't know,
also,
I don't know how you strike that balance.
well, you see, when you haven't read when you've read the books,
Mm,
you know what you're looking for and you know what's
yeah,
missing, right?
yeah,
When
yeah,
you have, and so like if they say a little thing here and there, you'll catch it. Whereas when you're
yeah,
watching a show,
exactly.
sometimes you miss things, you're just into the show, you're paying attention to something else that probably isn't as important that
Hmm.
you don't realize if you read the
Hmm.
books, you'd be like, well, that's really important. I caught that. Whereas when you're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
a newcomer and you're watching the show, you're kind of like, oh, you certain things like the ways, like they probably did describe something about the ways and it just went over my head because I didn't know. But
Mm,
I do agree, like it is hard and you have to strike a balance. I don't know if it's better to have never read the books and just watch the show and it's just a good
mm.
show. Because before I read the books, like I really did think the show was really well done. Now that I've read the books, I have more critiques though, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I get that. I do get that. I will
Yeah.
say one of the things I've like I've seen other people like online or whatever critiquing the show from the perspective of having read like one book or like a chapter or whatever. It's very difficult to do that because the people writing the show have very specifically said we are not adapting. Like when they made Eye of the World, like the first season, they weren't adapting Eye of the World, they're adapting the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
very like they're going through and being like, well, there's some things that you can just lift from the story and they are not important. They're
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
beautiful and fun.
Yeah.
Like, for example, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, like the Green Man, really,
I
really
know the
cool.
Green Man. That was one of the things I wanted to call you about. Like the Green
Yeah.
Man. Like
Mm,
the Green Man. It was a
yeah.
huge thing in the book. Like, and I loved the Green Man and I
Huge
loved
thing.
his part of the story.
Yeah.
Also, like that whole story was just not done. Like that
Not
whole
even a,
journey. Like,
yeah.
yeah. And I was just like, who the fuck? When I was listening to the book and I had watched season one, I'm like, who the fuck is the Green Man? Who is this man?
Hmm.
Nobody's talked to me about the Green Man.
Nope.
And now
Not
he's
even a little
dead.
bit.
And the Green Man is never going to come back around. Like, but we missed him.
Nope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely gone. Like, but I try, like, if you think about if you'd been watching the show, there's Loyal, but there are no talking trees throughout the book. And if suddenly in the final episode there was a talking tree who like
Yeah.
hugged someone and made mushrooms grow out of their face,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
probably would have been like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Then it would have been a
it would have
different
felt,
element. Yeah.
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 And so, like when they're making the whole show, they kind of go, "Okay, you know what? What's important here is that Rand defeats
Yes.
Balsamon. That's what's important in this moment." So they focus on that. But the
Yeah.
Green Man, I'm curious to know, like, did you follow? Because no, I'll ask you the question first before I tell you the thing that I was going to say. Did you follow what happened in the final bit, that battle there at the Eye of the World?
In the book,
Hmm.
did I follow what happened? Well, as far as I've thought, I think is all I really, Rand channeled the one power to
Hmm.
defeat but what's his name?
Baalzamon.
Balsamon. And like he was like really
Uh,
sad about the fact that he channeled because now
yeah, yeah.
and then
Well,
that was
obviously, yeah.
actually sad for me to read as well, the way he feels about that
Mm,
and how Egwene and his whole dynamic is yeah, anyways. Sorry, but like in
mm.
terms of what do you think I missed or
The reason I'm asking is because a lot of people get to the end of Eye of the World, and like this is people who have read the books multiple times, literally are like, I don't understand what the hell happened. Like,
oh,
there's a
that's the story of my
pool of
life though. That's the
yeah,
story of my life. So I'm like, I
mm,
normally don't know how it happened. So no, I
yeah,
mean, to be fair, the books are still difficult at times, and I do have to reread
mm,
chapters sometimes.
Mm.
And then sometimes if I reread them too many times, I still don't get it. I just move on and hope I figure it out later. I'm like, I get why Jenny has reread these books 100 times.
Yeah, because well, there's also things that you like go back and read and be like, oh my gosh, they were like like planting a seed in book one for something that doesn't happen until book seven, and it's really cool to see. But
Yeah.
the the end of Eye of the World, the end of the book is notoriously confusing. Like it is,
Yeah.
and not just, and that's what I was going to ask you about. Like, because Rand, he channels this pool of pure Sidene, but then he's up in the sky and he's seeing a battle on the
Well,
ground,
that's
and
probably why I felt like I prefer battle scenes in the show because I did feel confused. I felt like I just thought like there was a lot happening. I didn't know what was happening. So I was like, okay, they're just doing a battle and somebody dies in the end and Bran channeled the power. And that was kind of where I took from it. I was like,
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
died. He channeled the power. He's okay. And that was all that came to me.
That's all, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all you need to know. You can dig into it and figure it out uh, using knowledge that you know, people who are, what did you call me? A Wheel of Time fanatics like me can figure it out. But it is notoriously confusing. So I think the show had to change. Like, I think they had to change it because I think people watching it would have been like, I don't. Also, there's a tree person. Like, I think like there would have been so much. But the Green Man is lovely. Like,
Yeah, he was so
yeah,
sweet. Yeah.
he really
So
was.
I was kind of like, but I understood that one. That one I really did
Mm,
understand that removal or change. The parent one I'm
mm,
still trying to get my head wrapped around. And then like, what else had changed? Matt not journeying with them.
Yeah, that was not the choice of the writers, though. You know what happened
Yeah.
there, right? Like
Well,
that
I
was,
know we're not talking about book two, but
yeah,
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 he definitely rewrote a lot to get
yeah,
Matt to where he needed to be.
yeah. They had to because
Yeah.
that like, and it was. I get like that one. I think everyone is a little forgiving of, but they also changed his backstory in the books. Matt seems to come from a decent household. He does. There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
hint of anything. Whereas in the show, he comes from a really, really bad family,
Yeah.
but he loves his baby sisters. Of course, he does because baby sisters are amazing. And yeah, so that's a difference.
What other things were so different that well, it, Nynaeve and Lan, their
Mm,
love story is very different in the books versus in the show. Well, I
okay.
mean, maybe I just don't remember the show enough. But like
Mm.
I don't remember Nynaeve proposing to Lan.
She did not. No. In the
Yeah.
show, she did not. In the show, she like comes into his room and then they have like a moment of like deciding that they both want each other and then they have a night together.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
yeah,
remember. But
yeah.
the
And
show,
there
I
was
mean,
a
maybe it's going to happen later on, but I haven't gotten there
mm,
yet
yeah, yeah.
in the
There's a
books.
like there was a lot of debate online. I'm just gonna tell like people are saying that the show actually accelerated their relationship, and I'm just was like, a a proposal is way further ahead than sex. Like, sorry, if you told me that
Yeah.
you proposed to somebody, that would be very like
To be
bigger
fair,
news.
I was
Yeah.
shocked in the books. Like there
Mm,
was definitely hints of their
mm,
flirting in the books,
mm.
way better presented than in the show. Like I like,
Oh,
well,
interesting.
yeah, I remember being a little bit not sure what was going on between the two of them, like in the show. Or maybe I need to
Mm,
rewatch the show, honestly, like because I just don't remember it being like an impactful thing. Like in the show, it was very clear Ryan and Egwene, but in the books, I remember when they hooked up in the final few episodes, I was like, oh, where that came from? I like it, but where it came from?
mm.
Whereas in the books, it's like constantly hinted at. But it did, I remember being shocked that all those hints then jumped to proposal. I was like,
Yeah,
Nynaeve, I thought you were a little bit more like like you went straight to the end. Like you went
yeah, yeah.
straight.
To the
Like,
finish line. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
That's
okay, maybe
interesting.
it was back in the day type thing.
Maybe that is really interesting because I know this. There's very few things that I remember from my first time reading the books because I've read them too many times. So, but one of the things I do remember is thinking I didn't see Nynaeve and Lan's romance happening at all in the books until the proposal. Now, when I go back and reread, I can totally see it there. I
Yeah.
think the show showed it way more. And I know I'm not alone. There's a lot of people
Oh,
like in
really? Well,
the
you know
fandom who
what
get to the
though?
other side of the world. They're like, what? What?
To be fair, you might be right there because I knew it was coming. I
Hmm.
started to hear the little things that they would say about
Yeah, yeah.
like the way
She's
Nynaeve,
blushing.
yeah,
Yeah.
or like they would say how like Lan was impressed that she could sneak up or like or
Mm.
Hunt follow them, follow his
Yeah, yeah.
trails because he's supposed to be so good at hiding his trails, and he was impressed by that. I was like, I know why you're what's gonna happen because you're impressed. Like,
Mm.
like they kept showing their like for like in the books,
Yeah, yeah,
and because
yeah.
I'd seen the show, I knew that they were gonna end up together. So I was catching all of it. I was like, oh yep, see that?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I read that. Oh yep, I know what you're trying to foreshadow there. So I
Yeah.
knew, but to be fair, you're right. Like if I hadn't watched the show, that I probably would have been more shocked because I was already shocked that she went straight to proposal. I was like, what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hell? Because the whole
Yeah.
time she's like Miss Strong, sturdy. I'm not like, I don't need nobody,
Mm.
and then she goes to proposal with no, like I was, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's I was very grateful that the show actually showed some flirting between them because you don't really get to see, like, you just see her reactions to him and his reactions to her in the books,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
really sweet and lovely to pick up on a rewatch, but or reread. But that's interesting. Like, and yeah, I can tell you one of the reasons that is because when I read book one is very much it's Rand's story. Like
Yeah,
you're in
yeah.
Rand's head for pretty much the
The
entire
whole,
book.
yeah,
Yeah, like there's a couple of chapters from parents' perspective, a couple of chapters from Nynaeve's perspective,
yeah,
and then the very last, like I think one page is Moraine. The rest of it is
yeah,
Rand. So when we were focusing on Nynaeve or Lan, I was just like, let's get back to Rand. Like that, it's his story. I want to get back to the. So
yeah.
that was why I didn't notice it. But yeah, oh, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. The singing people, the traveling people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're in the season. They're in season one.
Yeah, I didn't understand their story as well. Then now I understand it better
Ah, okay.
in the books. It might have been something that they explained and I just wasn't really like paying attention
Mm,
in the show. But the books, I was like, okay, I get it now. Like I was kind of, I think before confused. But I get it. I know that the show presented well that they don't fight back. Okay, that was
mhm.
cool. But it was the part where they were searching for a song. I don't think
Yeah, yeah.
I understood that as well.
Ah, they do explain it in season one. Like, I think if you go back and rewatch, you'll definitely
I
see
would
it there.
see it.
I will,
Okay.
yeah, I will, like, because that's how they introduce themselves. Like, they're
Oh,
like, "Do you know the song?" Like, that's literally the first thing
yeah,
they
yeah.
say to them. But I like my opinion. I felt like the show sold the Tinker, like the Tuathon. It sold their philosophy better than the books. Because in the
Oh,
books, I find them very self-righteous. That's one of that's
oh,
the feeling
okay.
I get from them.
Yeah,
Whereas in the
yeah.
show, that's I get it. Yeah, your philosophy makes sense. But that's just me. Like if you're understanding them more in
Well,
the
I should. I'm debating about rewatching the season now
mm,
versus a part of me really wants to just listen to all the books because I just
and then
feel
go
like
back
there's
and
something. I mean, like you're like Tori, you could watch them 100 times. It's fine, but I a part of me wants to experience all the books before I rewatch the
mm.
seasons. I was kind of like almost if I wasn't doing the reaction videos with you, I don't think I would have finished season 2 either. I
Oh,
think I would
really?
have
Because you
yeah,
wanted to finish.
yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, because now I'm listening to book 2, having watched season 2, and it's even harder for my brain to
yeah,
like connect to everything. And I kind of want to get to a point where I don't even have that anymore.
right.
Like I
Because
want to
yeah,
get
book
to 4. Like
yeah, season two is so different.
yeah,
They melded two books. They had to do that whole thing with Matt to get him where they needed
yeah,
him to be. And like Rafe, the showrunner had said before the like book fans just prepare yourself. Like this season is
yeah.
going to be very different because
Just a lot. Yeah, they had
we
to do.
want to get through to book four. I'll
Okay.
just say this: book four is widely considered among the fandom to be the best book
Really?
in the
Oh, I can't
series.
wait.
Yeah, so I think that would they're like, okay, you have to set the foundation, but they really want to get to book 4. And so book 4 is
Okay.
going to be season 3. And book 4, I think, is going to be much tighter to the books. But
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know.
So,
I would
yeah.
say like the seasons and maybe season 3, book 4 is gonna, in a weird way, after watching season 1 and season 2, I feel like if I wasn't reading the books, I would feel completed. In a weird way. Like there's nothing.
Yeah.
I know at the very end that wider webby woman was, and then you saw all the dark ones were
Yeah.
resurrected and whatever.
Mm.
But like in a weird way, like you defeated the guy we've been stressed out about in season 1. You defeated
Right.
Ishamil.
Hmm.
You know, like Rand is proclaimed the dragon. Everybody's together.
Hmm.
Everybody's safe. We've all been stressed out about, are they going to survive? They've all survived. I mean, there's little things that, yes, I could probably get excited, but like in a lot of ways, I'm like, cool. Like I'm happy. Like I have no like
You have
cliffhangers.
no. Okay.
Yeah, for the season. The books, I don't know how book 3 is going to end, but like
Mm-hmm.
book 1 did enough for me to want to listen to book 2, and book 2 is keeping me going. I don't know how
Yeah.
book 2 is going to end versus blah, blah, blah. But the season finale, I remember, I just felt like, oh, I feel I have no cliffhangers. I have no like, can't wait for, because I remember when season 1 ended, I was like, I need to know what happens with Rand. Like,
Yeah.
I need to know, where did he go? What's happening?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So season 2, you feel okay, because I would have thought that bit at the end would be enough, but okay, it's not for you. Oh, that's interesting.
I mean,
What
it's
the
enough, but like not like a real like,
push? Yeah. Not a
yeah.
push for it.
It's
Okay.
interesting. Like, oh, okay, wonder what's
Mm.
gonna happen next. But
Mm.
like if my life got busy, let's say, or like whatever, and then I don't think, like there's certain seasons in certain shows, I'm like, I cannot wait for the next season. I need to know what the F has
Mm.
happened.
Yeah.
Like, like my whole life is like on pause until the next season.
Until
Like,
you know.
and I'm like
Yeah.
angry. Yeah.
One of the other changes I was going to bring up, I'm curious to know your thoughts on this, because you actually made me realize something in just when you were talking about the show. Um, they haven't actually necessarily aged up the characters, but they've made the characters in the show more mature. Like
Yeah.
Egwene and Rand are having sex, whereas in the
Yeah.
books
Yeah.
they're like
I feel
weirdly
icky now.
flirting.
I feel icky now. In the show, I
Oh,
was
really?
fine. In the
Yeah.
show, I was fine because they looked like adults and they seemed like
Yeah.
young adults. They seemed like maybe in their
Yeah.
late teens, early 20s. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever.
Mm.
In the books, if Ran and Egwene had sex, I would be very upset. Like, I would be like, this is too much.
They're the same age, though. In the books, they're the same age, but for some reason, Robert Jordan, like the feeling I get from them is that they're younger. Like
Yeah.
they come
So
across
true.
as younger, but they're pretty much the same age, and so
Oh, God, that's so
made
true. Yeah.
them they've made them more mature. And one of the things I like, you're watching season 1, and there's a lot more focus on Moraine and Lan and like the Aes Sedai. And it was you saying things like, you're much more invested in the relationships between the adults, like the relationships between Lan and
Yeah.
Moraine, and the relationship between Moraine and Swan, because they're adults. Like I bet you that's one of the reasons why they've done that. That's not that they've removed focus from the kids, but they've just sort of split the focus between the kids
Mm,
and the adults, so
mm.
that the adults watching the show will have
That's a good
something
point.
to grasp
Yeah,
onto.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
the show was like all about the tension between Rand and Egwene.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
care about the tension between Rand and Egwene. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you said, like, oh, it's cute. You guys think you like each other. It's so cute. Like that's the level of attachment I have to that. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
yeah, you talking about that made me go, I bet you that's one of the reasons.
The books are very comforting. I will definitely say there's something about the books that feel warm and
Mm.
like it definitely is. In the books, things happen quicker. In the
In
show,
some
things
ways,
happen
yeah.
quicker. In the
Yeah.
books, that these journeys are forever. Like,
Yes.
they're like, they go through it. they go
Yeah.
through it.
Like
And
that
for the
Matt
record,
and Rand passage is like so long. Yeah.
and they go through it. Like Ran
Mhm.
and Matt journeyed through villages, becoming gleemen,
Yeah.
performing, basically supporting each other. You do this, I do that. We'll make a buck tonight so we can have something
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
put a roof over our head and drink and eat for a night, and you know, supporting each
Mm.
other. Like, and that's the come like when I was also reading, like, you know, their dynamic. It just when I saw in the show in season 2, and then but I know the backstory of how much they've had to be each other's, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my heart. Like, that's why that was
Yeah.
hard for me, because I'm like, I've read the book now. I see how like close
How
they
deep
got.
their friendship is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like it has to be after that type of a journey, right? Like,
I would imagine. Yeah.
yeah, and it was sweet as well, even though like, yeah, like, you know, that's we're surviving through each other at this point. Like,
Mm.
you know, and then Tom, probably my favorite character of book 1. Like Tom and Loyal are probably my favorite characters of book 1. Tom being selfless, sacrificing himself, even just
Yeah.
journeying with them. Like he had
Yep.
no part of it. Like he didn't have to at all be a part of
No. No.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then to sacrifice himself for it. Like
Mm-hmm.
he could have moved on with his life. He could have lived his life and been fine. Like, but he
Mm-hmm.
decided to go a part of his journey, and then to keep them alive, and then to
Yeah.
guide them, and then to teach them, and then to, you know, all these things, and then to sacrifice himself
Mm-hmm.
so that they can move on, they go forward. And I know that he has his backstory and why, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
really, really sweet. And then you hear about his love story with the queen.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, you hear like he was what he was before he became a
Yeah.
queen, and his backstory and all of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really like that. I really like Tom. And
Yeah.
we really
Tom.
discussed,
Tom is good.
yeah,
Yeah. No. Tom is definitely beloved. Yeah.
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 I hope
And
to
so
hear
I.
about him again in more books, but I won't look at you for a reaction. Keep your poker face.
Yeah. Poker Face is here. How far are you into
Let's see.
book 2?
Book 2. Let's see. I am on chapter 8. Yeah.
What has happened?
They were in the village, in what's the village that they're in? I forget the name.
Faldara.
Yeah,
Faldara.
Faldara. And Swan has come, and all the
Mm-hmm.
Aes Sedais have come. Moraine was
Mm-hmm.
ignoring Rand, trying to get him to like leave because she thought that would be best for him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't, because he cares about his friends. I also was heartbroken when he tried to tell Perrin and Matt that he didn't want,
Yeah.
you know, that was
Yeah.
hard. I also, oh yeah, Matt and Egwene. So then, yeah, the Dark Ones, Trollocs and everybody came into the town
Okay.
to steal the horn.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also took the peddler
The peddler. Yep. Yeah.
from the dungeon. Egwene, ridiculous lady, was visiting the
Mm-hmm.
peddler. Like,
Yeah.
put your head on. Like, think, woman, it's the end of times, and that's what you're doing? Anyways. So Egwene and Matt were found in the dungeon by
Mm-hmm.
Ran, and Egwene was fine. They were found sleeping, well, not unconscious.
Yeah.
Egwene was healed, but Matt was without the dagger, so now they need to find the dagger, and Matt will die. Also, Ran went to go meet Swan, and Lan, made him dress nice, but Moraine went and burnt all their clothes, thinking
Mm-hmm.
under the pretense of you need nicer clothes,
Mm-hmm.
but he hid the Gleeman's coat. So if there's any magic-y stuff on anything and it's on that
Mm-hmm.
coat, it's not going to be good because he kept it and she don't know it's there. But I'm worried about that.
You're worried about the
Anyway,
Gleeman's Cove. Okay.
Matt is kind of waking up, kind of not. I've met different color Aes Sedais now.
Yeah.
You see the relationship between Swan and Moraine, but it is not the love story that I see in the show, which I much prefer.
Yeah.
I really like their relationship in the show, but I get you see their closeness in the books, though. You do.
Yeah.
Like you see their friendship.
See their
Like
friendship. Yeah.
you genuinely see a friendship in the books, which I do like.
I do.
Um,
I mean, you sent me a message right out. You're like, I've started book two. I'm heartbroken that this isn't there. I think. I mean, I sent you a video I did about this. I think that this is the show is an improvement on this. I do have to remind myself at times that the books were written by a straight white
well,
man in the
you
late
know,
like 80s.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but honestly, when I was watching the show and I
Mm,
saw that, although I loved the love story, I remember thinking, "Oh, that was very progressive for that time the books were written." I remember
mm,
thinking that. I remember thinking that's a very. But you always told me that the Wheel of Time fandom is a very
mm.
progressive like
Yeah,
fandom. So
it
I
is.
thought maybe
Yeah.
because it was book like the books had these sorts of dynamics in it that would attract
Mm,
people who were just progressive. Because I remember thinking,
yeah,
"Oh, these books were written when, and this is in
yeah.
the books. Pretty cool." Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. But yeah, so I did think that, but whatever. I definitely do
Mm.
prefer it in the show, and I think maybe if he had the liberty, he probably would have put it in the books too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very much how do I put this? I have a lot of respect for Robert Jordan, and I do think, I mean, everybody does. We grow and we change over time. He died prematurely. He had like a rare disease and died very young. So, like, I think that if he had been given more time,
He probably
he
would
would
have.
have, yeah, gotten there
So then, like,
himself.
how
But yeah.
did he died before he finished the books?
Mhm.
But like, how does one do this? 14 books. Did he? And he knew the end before he started the first. That's
That's what I've been
crazy.
told. Yeah, yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
How do you say, I know the end, I'm going to start 14 books prior, and I know all the middle too?
Well, he sold it. He tried to sell it as a trilogy, like as three books. And he told the idea to a publisher and they were like, this is not going to be three books. We'll give you six. So he sold it as a six-book series. And then by like the time I think the fourth or fifth book was out, there had been like constantly been bestsellers. They were like, you can just write as much as you want. Like at this point,
Wow.
because every book is a bestseller.
I don't know. The books are really great. And I'm just like impressed that
Mm,
people are out there with brains like this, that they can write an entire
yeah.
world and plan. I don't get it. My brain is just, I can't even fathom how that works.
It is pretty incredible. It is. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, like, you keep talking about backstories. You've talked about the backstory of Loyal. Are there any other backstories that stick out to
Oh,
you in the books?
Manetheren. I loved
Mm,
the backstory of the Two Rivers and Ebbins
mm,
Field. Loved it. I even like it
yeah,
was
yeah,
one of my that's when I really got hooked. I was already hooked
mm,
in the book, but that because I was earlier on in the book,
yeah, yeah. It is
that
pretty early.
hooked me. I was like, what? The way they
Hmm.
talked about Emmons Field and the Two Rivers came about and like their blood and
Yeah,
how they still stay there till this day and they don't even know why they stay there till
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
day. They just have a
yeah,
stubbornness about them and they don't even know why.
yeah,
Loved that backstory.
yeah.
What's another backstory I really
I
liked?
will tell you, like if you ever do and go back and rewatch, we do get that in the show, but very condensed. And there's a
Mm,
song, and I will say, I believe I'm right about this. Rafe, again, the showrunner and one of the writers, they had to fight to get that in the show because
oh wow.
like the studio was like, this is nothing to do with anything. And he's like, no, 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 we need this in the show. This is really, really important,
Yeah.
and it's like an
That
important
was
story.
probably my
So
favorite. Yeah.
yeah,
Trying to
yeah,
think, is that my favorite backstory of the first book? I think so. Like that really moved me. Like even the way
mm,
Moraine spoke it,
hmm,
like I really liked it. Like I really, really liked it. So
yeah.
I'm definitely
And
happy.
you're really lucky because you're listening to Moraine tell that story. And I like am on record. I love the original narrators. I think Rosamund Pike has done an amazing job. I'm not going to say which one is better. I don't think one is better than the other, but because of the way that the original narrators did it, if it's from a male perspective, a man reads it, and if it's from a female perspective, a woman reads it. That whole Moraine passage is told from Rand's perspective. So it's not,
Yeah.
it's a man's voice reading it, which like, he does an amazing job. But the woman's voice to me is Moraine's voice. And so
Yes,
you
yes, yes,
actually are
yes.
hearing Moraine's voice. Now, the original narrators, they've done it. Like she has read that passage. You can find it online and it's amazing because it's like to me, that's Moraine's voice reading it. but you
Yeah.
actually are getting that right away, like Maureen's voice telling that story, and it's
I absolutely love it. No, yeah, I do.
Mhm.
What other backstory did I list? Oh, Lance. Was that in book one? That's in book one, not in
Yeah,
book two.
that's in
Yeah.
book one. Yeah.
That was good information to even hear
hmm
about how that whole city fell down and how
hmm
the jealousy and rivalry of, and
Yeah.
then also to hear like Lance, his whole purpose,
Mm.
as a king is to, get through, like he's trained beyond anybody, shadow of a doubt, to get through the blight, to get through,
Mm-hmm.
to like protect and go to the eye of the world. He is like birthed into being the best. And then that his whole, everybody would drop everything to follow him, his
Yeah.
whole kingdom that doesn't even exist anymore. I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. Like you have built, born, ready soldiers ready to go at any strike of a dime. And
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
just waiting for him to take his rightful throne. And he's choosing not to because he just knows everybody's going to be killed if they do. So it's
Killed.
no
Yeah.
point. So I
Yeah.
did like Lan's backstory for sure. The prologue in book one.
Mm-hmm.
When is that going to pop up in the show? Because I thought that was a pretty cool. I'm sure it will at some point. They might do
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
throwback. Yeah.
They
But the
have like
prologue was fucking long.
it is, yeah. And that is not, I mean, the prologue to book two, also pretty long. The prologue, Kate. So season one, the last episode has a cold open that is in the past. And it shows, like, they've done it, like sometimes the cold opens, like that part before the credits, they have gone back to the past, I think, twice to the 3,000 years ago. So I think
Yeah.
they are going to be giving us those bits of information. But the prologue of book one is just, like, there are numerous people who just read it and they don't get it. Like this, I have no idea what happened here. Let's just start the story.
If I
So,
hadn't watched the show and then listened
mm,
and then went to the prologue, I would have been fucking confused.
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
have been like, what is going on here?
yeah,
Like, but I had watched the show, so I kind of known something happened 3,000 years ago. I know men who wield the power go crazy. You had also told me some
mm,
stuff that I knew that, like, at the very end, before they were sealed away, they blighted all the men who could wield the
mm,
power. You kind of had told me that, so it made sense to me that I kind of knew enough to get through the prologue
mm,
with the understanding enough. Yeah,
yeah. Okay,
yeah.
yeah. Um, okay. Any other differences or things that you want to talk about or that jumped?
They didn't spend enough time in the show, but maybe it's just the nature of shows versus the books. But
Mm,
like, I really do like understanding more the difference between the male Aja and the
yeah,
female. Like, also even just a name. Like, I don't think I understood that like a woman could be stilled, but a man is gentled. I didn't know
yeah,
that was. I thought it was two separate things. Like, I didn't even know it
mm,
was the same thing, but one's for a man, one's for a woman. Also,
yeah,
how Maureen saying like, I didn't understand why in the show why Ran had to go to the crazy guy who
mm,
had wielded the power before.
yeah,
I was like, why can't she teach him? I don't get it. But in the
yeah,
books, you understand. Like the books, they very much say like, can't teach a bird how to swim. Like
yeah,
it's the same
exactly.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They haven't gone into that as much. There are some, what do you call them? They're called the origins. They're these like short films that they've produced that explain that a bit more. But I think they are sort of dripping that knowledge to people.
Okay.
Because yeah, in the books it is very like they're even named like the female power is Sidar, the male power is Sidene.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
different. The language, like gentled versus stilled, always just struck me as very silly. Like when I mean, like it's literally the same thing. You're just
Yeah.
giving it different names. Just
Yeah.
like it's the same thing. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
yeah,
agree
yeah,
with
yeah,
that. It's just like you don't get. I thought it was two separate things in the movie,
yeah,
in the
yeah.
show. I was like,
Mm,
okay, and I just didn't understand why they kept interchanging the names. It was confusing for me a
mm,
bit, but the books, it's very like I get it now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, is there anything else before we? I can't think of any questions that I have at this
No,
point.
I mean, I'm just like excited to. I want to get to the point where I'm not watch the show and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
experience what. Like, I want to get to book four before book four is taped
Before,
and
yeah,
shown.
yeah.
Because I want to experience that now.
Mm.
I'm tired of like going backwards. And like,
Yeah.
but I also don't want to be disappointed either. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to like, you know, be really excited about this thing in the book and then it doesn't show up in the scenes. So I don't know. We'll see.
That can happen. Yeah, that can definitely happen. Especially again because I have a friend who's only read book one and was very annoyed by things that weren't in this season. And like if you've only read book one, you don't know what's important to the entire story, and so it's very hard for you to judge. So yeah,
True.
I have a feeling you'll start to feel that sooner rather than later. That feeling of I don't understand what's happening.
Okay.
Like or not don't understand. I don't remember this. I think you'll start to feel that before book four. So yeah, because like season 2 deviates a lot because it's melding
I've
two
already
books
noticed
together.
that.
Yeah,
I've already noticed like there's so much in the book I'm listening. I don't even know hardly anything that's shown up in the season yet.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm like,
there's certain things that are like when he meets with Swan and Lan prepares him to go in. That actually happened in the show, but like it's so different. It's so different.
Yeah.
But I can still see the core of it. So
I'm going to be really confused if they don't have, like, if I don't get to the point where the woman I hate, the character I hate isn't in the books. What are they called? The Damani? The Damani?
Oh, the Suldam and Damani, yeah.
I'm going to be annoyed because I want to read that. I mean, I've kind of gotten some hints about people who've crossed over the ocean in the book so far. Like they're talking about people across in the other continents here and there in the book. I'm guessing it's going to come up at some point that they come back. When they come back, they're going to have that shit.
I will say nothing. You're on chapter 8. I'm saying nothing.
And it's 2 books, so I have to get through book 2 and book 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you'll get there. You'll get there. Well, I'm glad. I'm so glad you're enjoying them. I really am. And I have infected you.
Yes, you have. There you go. Not with COVID.
No. I say as I'm coughing right now. I don't have COVID. I'm sorry. I also can't give that to you over the internet. So, but yeah. Okay. Well, I want to talk to you after you finish The Great Hunt. I think my opinion, like Eye of the World is a good book. I think The Great Hunt is a much better book.
Oh, really?
And so I think, like you in my read on it, well, from what you've told me has happened so far, you haven't even gotten into the swing of the full book yet. So
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will continue, and then I'll let you know when I get hooked again, or like more into the depths of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, Jenny.
Well, I love you. All right. So that was it. That was that conversation. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. It's really fascinating to me to see, like, she is doing this in a very strange way. Like I said in the video, she started reading the books halfway through finishing season 2. So she had like it's a unusual entry point into the story that she's got. And it's interesting to me the things that she feels are missing from the show. And like I said this before, it's kind of hard to unring the bell once you know things. You can't kind of unknow them. But it's very interesting to me because that is a difficult thing for me to try and understand. Like as she pointed out, when you've read the books and they like drop like a little hint about something in the show, I know the hints are important, so I pick them up. But it's hard for me to know if somebody who hasn't read the books will pick them up. And she's saying like there are things that I'm pretty sure they hinted at in the show that she just didn't know were important, and so she didn't pick them up. And it's anyway, it's fascinating to me. Let me know your thoughts though on this in the comments below. If you like my content and you want to support me, I do have a Patreon. It is also linked in the description below. My patrons, as always, I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much for your support. It really helps, like especially times like this when I'm barely able to function as a human. It's so nice to know that there are people who are supporting me and are backing me up. So thank you so much. And with that, I am gonna end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.